Thank you for visiting my channel. Today I decided to answer tag Unpopular Opinions. I believe that the author is Color Mama and I will leave you a link to her channel down in the info box. So the first question is, what is a super popular coloring book you don't connect with? Well, I think that it's all latest books by Johanna Basford. I think that somewhere after Ivy and World of Wonder, I totally stopped to follow Johanna Basford books, even if I remember that the theme of her latest books, it was what I usually love to color, about rooms of wonders, about flowers, but somehow when I unsuccessfully tried to continue coloring in Ivy, when I tried to color something in World of Wonder, I realized that the style is totally not for me, and from time to time I see quite nice pictures by other colorists from those books, but as I said, I totally stopped to follow, so I even don't know what is the name of the latest book. The World of Wonder, I appreciate it only thanks to those smaller pictures which I can color quickly. Of course, now when I have book like Leon's Journey, where I have similar size of picture but more interesting subject, I don't color this one. And Ivy, the reason why I liked it was because it's a story illustrated by the artist, and when you follow Johanna art, when you also color it, it also feels like you are a true illustrator. It was fun, but so many repetitive elements, and honestly, it's a book for children, so the style of the pictures, it also was much closer to the children's, not adult coloring, and that's what totally killed my excitement. I did several pictures which were relatively interesting for me. Sometimes I experimented with art supplies, but very quickly I lost all entertainment, all inspiration. And yeah, that's my opinion about Johanna Basford. Her books are lovely. It's a good start for many colorists. I absolutely admire her as a marketing specialist, as a person who started with this madness of adult coloring, but her style, it's for me much closer to the children's book. Only amount of details, but definitely not the style which excites me, which really gives me a lot of interest or inspiration. So I think that all the books by Johanna Basford. And the second, it's, do you prefer simple or highly detailed pages? I prefer detailed pages. That's one of the factors which for me actually defines what we call adult coloring, amount of details. Other things also, but details are also important. Of course, there have to be a balance. I will show you. You know that now it's very popular, those cute, simple books which we can find under Coco Vaio brand and similar things. They are mostly intended for coloring with markers, and for me that's below my level of simple style. For me, simple and easy, that's Matchstick Mouse, where we have lovely pictures. They can be very simple like this one. They can be slightly more detailed, where you need to spend a little bit more time. But that's what I call simple in adult coloring. Another good example is this book. Not all of these pictures I like, but that's also simple, but for me that's book for adults. We have interesting subjects, we have nice amount of details, we simply can finish it more quickly. Of course, details also could be extremely overwhelming. That's a bad example of very detailed picture. I I actually love Bank, but his first book, it's maybe has excessive amount of details. That's, for example, which I wouldn't call my favorite amount of details. It's still possible to recognize them, but, well, maybe too much, especially all this grass growing from the turtle. I love that in all his later books, Bank slightly changed his style, and now I love his books, and he is my favorite artist in this series. So that's too much. Coco Vaya is too simple. And finally, examples of perfect. For me, perfect adult page, it's like this one. It's detailed, but in the same time we don't have many repetitive elements. So we have flowers, but all of them are different. We have animals, all of them are different. So you will spend a lot of time on such page, but I don't mind, because never it will be boring. All flowers are different, all animals are different. So that's example of perfect spread for me. Lovely compositions, not much empty area, and plenty of details, but very interesting. Another perfect example is Kerberazana's. I don't mind to color all such pictures with many details. The only pictures which I would probably color last in this book, it's where we have plenty similar elements. Let me show you. This one is detailed, but it's interesting. It's like resolving puzzle, trying to find hidden elements. What I mean, it's like this one, where you have like main character, and then you need to spend maybe a couple of days coloring rats. I don't like it, not because it's rats. I don't mind rats, because they are similar. If you have mix of rats, cats, bat, well, any animals, but not just the same colors, many similar objects, then it will be perfect. I hope that I managed to explain that my preference is detailed pictures, but it's also nice when we have variety of subjects, and it's also better if I still can color with pencils. That's my main art supplies. So when elements are extremely tiny, so I need to color only with felt tip pens, that's already too many details. And here we start the third question. Do you prefer alcohol markers or pencils? 98% for colored pencils. Markers I mostly use for backgrounds, or when paper in the book is so thin that I know that to cover paper, to fill in the surface with pencils, it will cost me probably half of the set, because you will need to blend, to fill in paper texture. So it's better to have something beneath, like marker layer, and then to work only with on details with pencils. I will show you how I mostly use markers. Very good example, it's all books by Russell Hampson. Here I can do not very interesting element with marker and main character with pencils. Of course, part which I enjoy the most, it's where I use pencils. That's again boring part with markers, and then pencils. I love to use markers when I need to use light gray colors, light beige, actually similar shades. Quite often, even when I try to color with pencils in such color palette, there could be dirt, or I run out of my cream, beige, sienna, seashell pink, light French gray colors very quickly. And in polychromos I simply don't have such light shades. So that's where I prefer to do light shading with markers, and then again I return to pencils. Another good example where I am happy how I use markers, it's in Colorless Kingdom, where paper is truly thin, and without markers I don't think that I would manage to do such a nice gradient as I did here. That's all pencils and that's marker. And many other pictures in this book. That's marker, that's marker. It really helps to color quicker. That's marker, that's marker. I imagine that with pencils I would spend another day trying to blend on this paper, and definitely I wouldn't have much pleasure. But with markers it helps me to do backgrounds quickly, and I do love how they work on this paper. So for me markers it's a secondary helpful media, but my main preference is with colored pencils. Next, is it okay to have whips or not? For me, totally okay. I think that it's even okay to start something and then to accept that maybe you lost interest, maybe you messed up this page so totally that it's impossible to correct it, to improve it at the level that you still are happy with the result. I don't think that it's a tragedy. Let's be honest, we have huge collections of coloring book. Yes, maybe if you messed up your favorite page in your favorite book, yeah, that's bad. But I don't think that it's bad to start something and then to decide that I will continue it later, or I don't want to continue. It's also okay. I myself prefer if I do a complicated work like all those huge spreads. I start with a huge interest, with huge inspiration, but because of the long time, when I color approximately 2/3 of the page, I feel like I am tired, I am overwhelmed, and that's a moment when I prefer actually to leave it as a whip for short time, definitely. But if I continue to color, it's a huge risk that in this desire to color quicker, I can do not the best color choices, maybe color not in the best accurate way. But if I leave it for several days, maybe even several weeks, I can return to it, to look at it with new eyes, maybe to find better color selections. So I think that it's totally okay. I can't say that I have plenty of whips, and maybe that's because I film videos. I feel a little bit obliged to finish more pictures, but inside of me I don't feel guilty that in several books I have whips and I don't intend to return to them. The only book where I'm a little bit sad to have whips, it's Symphony. It's a book which I intend to finish one day. And usually I start to color it and then I finish page quite quickly because they are small. But I don't know why, but I constantly have whips here and I struggle with them. For a long time as a whip I had this page with a watercolor background which I did, then I got distracted, and a year later, this spring, I finally finished flowers. So happy end for this one, but I still have another one which I did with some pastel colors. Then I realized that I don't like it, or maybe that's because I used Castle Arts. They are not the best for this paper, or maybe Arteza, well, something cheap pastel pencils. So I simply was tired and I felt like paper is already burnished and I wanted to put stronger colors, stronger contrast. Paper didn't allow me well, so there were some technical difficulties. I stopped to color it, so this whip it's probably more than 1 year old. Also this winter I started lovely spread, very yummy. I still like it, nothing bad with this one, and I can finish it. I have no explanation why after this one I finished maybe all 6 pages more in this book, I have good progress. I color almost in months, each month in this book, but I still can't finish this one. But I think that one day it will have a lucky day, maybe some stars will be moving, and I will want to finish it, definitely. So that's the only book where I prefer to do something with my whips. If I manage to color everything, I am sure that I also will do something with this unlucky whip. In all other books, I think that whips are totally normal. You don't need to feel guilty. Well, the fifth question. What's one illustrator or style that's not for you? Talking about style, I don't like color by numbers. I don't like heavy grayscale. I definitely don't like artificial intelligence. So that's about styles. And we already discussed that I am not into that simple, cute coloring books. I love to follow some colorist illustrators on Instagram and to admire magic which they can do with markers in those books. But for me, I just don't think that I would enjoy the process. But they are lovely. About Illustrator, well, don't kill me, but that's definitely Maria Trolle. It's very difficult to explain, but majority of her pictures, when I look at them, I mostly see problems, areas which I dislike, and only from the second glance I can see lovely details. I don't like how she depicts faces. I don't like how she depicts shapes of the body. I don't like how she does hair. I am not a big fan of her simplified leaves. I think that on many of her pictures, designs could be, well, a little bit more elegant. I always say that if we compare it with Leila Dewley, you can see that in Leila Dewley we have like, well, how to explain it better. We have maybe more elegant shapes of branches, more variety on the size of the leaf. If we compare with Leila Dewley, there will be more thin branch near the tip and smaller leaves, variety of size of the leaves. So that's how children put their leaves. In adult coloring, I require a different style. I don't say that I dislike all of her pictures. No, there are plenty of lovely designs. This one is not bad. In this book, there are pictures which I would consider even very beautiful, and pictures which I don't like. Like this tree, for me, it's absolutely childish. The look of this tree totally kills in me any desire to color the rest of the page. Her faces, that's absolutely not for me. Her animals, also not my favorite thing. But there are some lovely designs. That's why I keep these books. It's like totally different artists who created this one or this one. Very detailed, very elegant, no problems at all, nice composition, and similar this one. Those pictures are very lovely. So it's my own inner problems that because I noticed for myself those details of Maria Trolle art which I disliked in her first books. Now I almost never color in even in her later books, which are better, but still. When I look at these pictures and when I think about huge pile of my other books, I simply decide to invest my time in other books in different style because I have limited amount of time. So this is my least favorite illustration style. Next question is, do you think that adult coloring are getting too repetitive? Well, it's difficult question because I don't mind to have similar books created by my favorite illustrators like Morgan O'Brien or Russell Hampson. Artist creates in his own style, so maybe if you look at all his books, you will say that from the first glance they are the same, but I don't mind because I love him, and when I purchase new book by Russell Hampson, it's like meeting with the old friends, all those lovely characters starting from Mr. Fogerty, Snail and other characters. So it's not repetitive. What I dislike, it's of course huge amount of those AI books and that people still color them. I don't like grayscale books, and sorry, but I think that arrival of color by numbers and those simplified cute books, it also started to make market of adult coloring closer to the market of children's coloring. It's not bad because you can color such books together with your children, but it definitely killed a little bit desire of serious artists to produce more books because I would say that audience started to make lesser. About repetitive, well, for me, I definitely started to purchase a lesser amount of mythographic books. I already mentioned that after a couple of books which I purchased automatically, now I try to look very carefully at the flip through. So definitely for me, mythographic started to be repetitive. That's apart from Kattenbank books. I love his latest book about Alice. I hope to purchase it one day. Other books, maybe like 1 of 5, are really interesting. So I wouldn't say that market is repetitive. It's just, I would say that we have maybe 20%, now it's even a lesser amount, like 10% of really unique books with unique style, unique illustrators, and then 80-90% of quickly made low-class books. And it's started to be more difficult to find real gemstones, and unfortunately publishers, in my opinion, they don't put a lot of efforts into connecting with new original artists, into promoting them. It's easier to make a new book from the artist you're already familiar and not to put other efforts. Look at Creative Heaven. They produce decent books, but when was the last time when they introduced something really new, original, not from Teresa Goodrich, Marjorie Sarnat, or other from their bunch of artists? I love those artists, but sometimes it's really nice to see something new, something refreshing, and that's what is the problem. I love that magazines of Coloring Heaven, that they try to find new artists. Unfortunately, it's not very easy to get their magazines, so that's problem of the market. But I would say that they are the only ones who try not to be repetitive. So problem is more in the amount of high quality books on the market comparing to the low quality which were produced not for the sake of art but to make quick money. Next, 7th question. Are limited editions books overhyped? Limited edition or rare books? Well, because I am already long into this coloring hobby, I am very lucky to have books which are no more available. They are out of market, and unfortunately it's very difficult to get them now. And I would say that they are truly beautiful, and I am happy to have them. Let me show you some examples of these books which are now out of stock. It's impossible to get them, like these books by Nick Filbert. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his full name. All his books are great, and out of stock now. Then those books about adventures of tiger and cats, those Korean books, this beauty. So I treasure them, I love them, but I can't say that there are books which I would now put huge amount of efforts into getting, or in huge amount of money. So it's nice to have such rare books. I try to color in them, but I wouldn't put huge amount of efforts into getting something rare. I better try to find something similar in style. For example, I love a lot of Japanese books. They are cute, they are nicely done, but because of the logistics that from Amazon Japan you can't deliver directly to Ukraine, you need to use delivery companies. The process is complicated. So even if I love them in general, maybe I am lazy. Maybe because I have many other books, I won't be putting any effort, any huge amount of money into getting them. There are plenty of high quality books yet, so for me, I treasure my old books, but I definitely won't be hunting for the old books, how rare they are. I just will hope that maybe one day they will reprint. Actually, what I learned from my cross-stitching hobby, there were plenty of very rare designs by Dimensions, very famous company. They were highly overpriced. There were like hundreds of dollars for the cross-stitch kit. And then 10 years, 20 years later, Dimensions finally did something with legal contracts, with copyrights, so they managed to put into manufacturing a lot of their old kits, and of course now they are reasonably priced. You can purchase them, similar quality, the same designs. So maybe sometimes it's worth to wait. Maybe it's better not to spend fortune on the rare book and to purchase it somewhere on Etsy. Maybe it's better to do similar thing like people did with Emily Lindehall Oberg, when people started to motivate publisher to reprint the books, to show that it's high demand book and it will be really nice to print it once again. It's good for the artist, it's good for the community, it's good for the manufacturer. So for me, it's a better way. I definitely will be spending a lot of time or money on the rare, overpriced books. My 8th question is, are color-alongs overrated or underrated? You know, it's difficult for me to be objective, unprejudiced here, because I film color-alongs. What I can tell from myself, I lost maybe 95% of any interest on filming them. They have such a low amount of views that I film them only out of habit, because I still color and I think, oh well, okay, I can switch on camera. Definitely it's discouraging when you film, when you post it and there is a very low amount of views. As a colorist, I watch only color-alongs by Chris Cheng. I absolutely love them, and I prefer quick color-alongs, so I try to make the speed of those videos quicker. And what I noticed for myself, interesting color combos, her technique of shading, so for them I'm extremely grateful. In the same way, I am grateful to those old color-alongs with Inktense by Peter Hewitt. They definitely moved my skills, my art onto different levels. So thanks to Peter Hewitt and Chris Cheng. About color-alongs, in general, I don't know. If you compare amount of views on the videos about purchases and for color-alongs, you will tell it for yourself. They are totally out of interest for the majority of coloring community. And here starts the next question. What's your opinion of overconsumption in coloring world? Yes, we need to admit that there is such thing, and indeed, we all struggle with this overconsumption. I wouldn't say that I feel ashamed for my own purchases, that I'm very prone to overconsumption. Probably no, but I also don't mind when other people show huge hauls, show a lot of new products. Again, if you look at the amount of views, you will see how interesting are those videos to people. So I don't think that it's a bad thing. For me, what I dislike is that it's when majority of those art supplies or majority of those books are still laying untouched. Like you purchase book, you made a flip through and you hadn't colored it for years. That's where I feel ashamed for myself, and I constantly try to lessen amount of my untouched books. And the same with art supplies. What I dislike is when people actively start to demonstrate some product, especially when they don't mention that it was sent as for a review from the company, that it's not totally independent review. And then you watch such video with many favorable reviews for such product, and then somewhere like 6 months later you watch another video, art supplies I never use, art supplies I give away, and you can see totally different opinion from the same person about such art supplies. So that's what I a little bit dislike, that people purchase then never use it, or purchase maybe very similar set next without using the first one. But in general I don't mind, because first, if you can afford it and if you give you a moment of happiness this purchase, that's okay. Honestly, we all have such complicated life with not many happy moments, that if you can feel happy from your purchases and you can afford it, and after that you still have money for food, do it, purchase it and be happy. Because indeed, quite often those are new art supplies. It gives you a burst of creativity. You immediately want to use it, immediately want to experiment. In such a way, if you purchase and then try to use it, I am totally happy that people purchase and show us. Definitely very inspiring. So I can't say that I am very bothered by overconsumption. And finally, what is one popular supply you think that it's not worth all the money and all the hype? Well, that was probably the most difficult question for me, because I try to use all my art supplies. I made video a couple of days ago about art supplies which I purchased, but simply they are not exactly to my coloring style. I just can't find way how to use them. But about not worth the money, I would say that the only one example I have, it's gouache paints by Chinese brand Himi. I have one set. I must admit that I hadn't used it quite often yet, so I can't say they are bad. But they are extremely popular. You can see them everywhere on Instagram, on YouTube. There are huge sets with huge amount of color, and of course they also look very attractive. They also have very aggressive marketing company, so they sent a lot of their sets. I purchased only this set of pastel colors because I was interested in them, and from the first couple of times when I used them, I wasn't impressed by their quality. I prefer slightly more opaque, maybe gouache, and I realized that I don't like that package, that after you opened those paints, they remain completely open, even if you put them into the plastic box. They can dry very quickly, and for gouache, even if you can rewet it later, I still feel like if you store it in jars, in bottles, in tubes, it keeps this consistency of very creamy, very nice liquid. When you rewet that heme, I don't feel like it feels the same as freshly paint which you just opened. So that's the only thing. I think that many other brands, for example, in Ukraine we have more professional gouache like Rosa, and in price range it's in the same like Hime, and quality is better, and many other gouache paints which may be not so attractive in their box, not so huge in those impressive sets with 100 colors, but quality is better. So if you consider purchasing your set of gouache, maybe don't look only at Hime, but look at other options. So that's the only one. I also still look at pen pastels. I think that it's a magical art supplies. From what I saw, it can do magic for the backgrounds, even on bad paper, but every time when I look at price tag, I think that I'm not ready to use such an expensive art supply for my backgrounds in coloring books. So for me, pen pastel, which I hadn't tested yet, I know that it's amazing, but out of my price range for hobby. And Hime, simply because of its very active marketing strategy, you simply don't have enough options to look at other brands which could be also very high quality. And next we have additional questions. True or false? You don't need to swatch supplies. No, for me it's totally no. I always swatch everything. I have my very old, very ugly looking folder, and here I have all my swatches, huge amount of swatches for everything. And even with pencils, which I know like from the first until the last pencils, I can combine them in my head. I still love to use my swatches. Sometimes when I require really nice combination of colors, when I color faces or when I color flowers, you need to create very smooth gradient, the lightest color, the mid-tone, the dark color. So it's nice to remember which of reds is a little bit more purple, which one is a little bit more orange, so you will be able to find lightest, mid-tone and darkest color in the same family thanks to the swatches. And very frequently I simply grab my work in progress and I can use this swatch to think about my next step. I will show you. That's my work in progress, and I need to decide how I want to color the next cat dressed as a rabbit. I first thought about olive colors. Now I feel that maybe it's not the best thing. So I simply use my swatches to put it near the project, and I can see that no, maybe green, it will be too similar to the colors which I have around. So I can look here, and it helps me to make final decision about colors. With cheaper sets, especially those Chinese sets, where the marking on the pencil is not totally equal to the color, it's especially necessary to make swatches. I wouldn't say that on Artix pencils, on Arteza, the outer side of the pencil, it's totally similar to the hue of blue. Especially when you have such a huge range, it's better to have swatch and to decide, do you want something more calm like this cerulean blue or very vibrant like this true blue. For me, swatches are extremely helpful. I can't imagine starting to work with art supplies without first swatching them. And it's also part of pleasure. So for me, swatches are absolutely necessary. Well, second question, I think that I already answered, because question is, cute and cozy books are worth the hype. Sorry guys, for me, no. Maybe I don't mind to have one such book in my collection, but that will be all. If on our market unfortunately disappear all books apart from those cute Coco Vayo books, I think that I will finish my coloring journey in a week. I don't think that such books, they are able to keep my interest, my attention for longer than a week. For me, they are not very inspiring. Collecting coloring books, it's part of the hobby. Totally yes. I said that I prefer to have books where I have at least 1 or 2 colored pages, but still, when I have the book, I can admire the black and white line art from the artist. I can be happy just from having it, so I think that it have to be a balance. Collecting when you enjoy the artist style but feel that you are maybe not ready yet to color it, that's great. I think that it's nice. To purchase all books when you found in the shop, or all books from the series, maybe that's not very great if you don't color at least one page in all of them. On one side, it's definitely a very good support to the publisher and to the artist, because it's always a huge risk that the last normal artists and publishers will leave our market and we will have only IE books, because of course we all have more books that we really need, but in such a way, if we can, we support. So collecting is great, but also let's try to collect at least beautiful books which are beautiful even without your colors. The next question is, you need social media to really be able to participate in coloring community. Well, that's complicated question. The coloring community has pros and cons. It depends how active you want to be in coloring community. For example, you can watch coloring YouTube videos without having your channel, and that's great. You can just to be a member of Facebook groups and to admire works by your favorite artist. Like, I'm a member of Kanoka Yaguza group, of Christine Karen book, of Kerber Razanes, where people share finished pictures of our favorite artists. I can I can find inspiration of such groups, but I am not obliged to post something myself if I don't feel comfortable. So that's a good thing when you can find inspiration. But quite often, when you start to post your own art, you need to be innerly ready to be compared to other colorists. You will be comparing amount of views you get for your pictures or for your videos, activity on your page. So sometimes it feels less relaxing when you start to post your art and you start to compare it to other colorists. There are many great things in the community, like color alongs if you are interested in such things. There is a great way to find some coloring buddies if you don't have them in your inner circle between your friends and family, but if you need it, because honestly, I don't like color alongs. I don't like coloring challenges. As I said, I love groups where I can see art from other colorists from my favorite books, but all those challenges to color by palette, to color particular subject, to color by palette, well, that's not for me. When I feel obliged to do something, somehow I have this inner stop and I can't do it. Absolutely. The only color along I participate, it's color in Ukraine. It's easy. Once in a month you need to color something. You need, if you want to. I can color something with a very wide theme, like fruits or forests or wizards. So I definitely will find something during a month in my books. And that's not very pressing. So this color alongs I do love. All other where there are more strict rules, I don't participate, I'm not interested. So please be careful with social media. Don't let them to press you to compare your art with other arts, to compare your amount of books of art supplies with other persons, because it's social media. It's a very quick way to stop having fun from your art, and it feels a little bit like competition, and it's not a very good thing for your hobby. Next, true or false question is coloring is not something you do in the same time as other stuff. Yes, because I film my coloring, I can't do anything else. But I love to listen to the music. That's the only thing. If I don't do a real-time commenting for my Patreon color along, I love to listen to some music. But other stuff I definitely can't do when I color. My other hobbies, like cross-stitching, I love to do together with maybe watching some YouTube, maybe watching some TV series, but definitely not coloring. Next, budget art supplies are just as good as artist quality. Sorry guys, but no. They can be decent, they can be very decent, but with budget art supplies, I would say that their quality is unpredictable. You will need to spend bigger amount of efforts and time into getting results similar to what you get with professional art supplies. You will need to apply more layers, you will struggle more on cheap paper, and sadly, majority of our books, they have not very good paper, and what you can color quickly with polychromos with maybe couple of layers, and paper texture will be covered nicely, layering will be good. With budget art supplies you will have to use much more efforts and time. In professional art supplies they will last longer, in my opinion, so it's definitely not worth to purchase the most precious set from the very beginning. It's better to start from something reasonably priced in the middle of the range, but it's definitely worse if you want to continue this hobby, if you still interested in, if you have long-term plans to invest gradually into high quality art supplies, because feeling of using them quite often is totally different from using budget art supplies. For me, it's nice to have majority of professional art supplies and several more cheap sets which I can use for simple works, for some of the backgrounds, or sometimes in some of the books where I can color just cheerful, simple pictures, the same matchstick mouse. Maybe I need lesser amount of colors, I don't need complicated shading on those pictures. Their budget art supplies also work well, they help me to save my more precious art supplies, but in general, for me, they only are helpers, and definitely, if you are able, start to build your collection of more professional art supplies. And finally, the quantity of completed colored pages compromise the quality of. For me, it's a big no. When I look at some videos which are named like I colored 50 pictures in a month, I am not interested, because majority of them indeed will be either colored with felt tip pens or they will be colored by numbers, and because that's not my style and out of my interest, I much more prefer if person maybe colored two, even one page, but it will be really interesting with unusual color combos, with proper shading, with interesting solution. Maybe person changed something on a page. So for me, high quality one picture is much more precious comparing to 50 quickly colored pages. Of course, you color for yourself. If you feel more happiness and more pleasure from 50 quick works, do it. Forget about your audience, because mostly we need to think about our hobby and our happiness. But as a viewer, I prefer one high quality work and not 50 simple works. Sorry if I disappointed someone. Well, it was really interesting. It also helped me to think a little bit about my own choices. I hope that I didn't offend the army of supporters of Maria Trolle. And well, I think that of course I will be coloring in her books, just maybe not now. And I hope that we still will have different videos with art supply purchases, because I recently saw some comments when people start to shame this overconsumption, and I think that people need to mind their own business. Overconsumption isn't great, but what person do with her own money, what decide to purchase, it's also a person's choice, and other people don't need to criticize and to be so negative. Well, thank you for watching, and until my next videos.